Now, if you listened to last week's podcast, and if you haven't, I implore you, go back right now. It's pretty short. It's 15 minutes. Go back and listen to last week's podcast because we had on Seamus Bruner, and I'll give you the intro in a minute, but he was in here dropping truth bombs about the funding for Antifa that's been recently going on. He was on the show just a couple days after appearing in the White House roundtable for Antifa, testifying and speaking before the president and a bunch of the other cabinet members and Department of Justice about where all this money is coming from that's funding these protests, including what he likes to refer to, what was commonly referred to as Riot Inc. Now. So Seamus is back on this show today. We really left it off with a lot of unanswered questions, but he came back, agreed to be extremely gracious this time. Come back and join us for round 2 so that we can really start to flesh out some of that funding. So Seamus Bruner joining us again, director of research at the Government Accountability Institute, also author of the book Control Oligarchs, along with 2 other bestsellers, Compromised and Fallout. He's one of the lead researchers for Peter Schweizer's team, has been since 2011, and pretty much now the nation's foremost authority on the finances and funding methods of protest organizations like Antifa and Riot Inc. Seamus, thank you so much yet again for joining us and talking to Burner Nation.
Josh, great to be with you. Happy to come on here again. And I'm yours for the next 20 minutes. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. So when we left it off last week, you said it right here on the show. You said, hey, we know that we've had, a lot of very high profile people, organizations donating to these protest funds. I think you referred to it as the protest industrial complex. Was that the moniker? And you said, hey, in the next couple of days, I'm going to be dropping the full list. And you absolutely did. I mean, just an absolute bombshell of a list of people that have been funding. We're looking at $294 million and some change that's going into the No Kings 2.0 protest. Now, to give our listeners some context, we're recording this on October 17th, the day before the No Kings 2.0 protest is scheduled to occur all over the country. And you dropped the list that there's almost $300 million being funneled in to this protest. Obviously, a lot of organization going on here. Walk me through some of those people that are donating some of this money, some of the organizations that they're donating through, and kind of why they're funneling money, that in that particular fashion.
Yeah. So the funny thing about the No Kings protest, this is No Kings 2.0. The first one was back in June. This one is expected to be even bigger than the previous one. And it really depends on where you're located. I mean, if you're in a free state like Florida or Texas, there's a low chance that this is going to be anything spectacular, anything violent, anything, outside the normal of just, people yearning for the 60s back, older cat lady types. But if you're in cities like Portland, Seattle, Chicago, places where the unrest and the violence tends to pop off, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you might want to stay in this weekend because there are all kinds of agitators and people who mean to do harm to either whether it's an ICE facility or law enforcement officers. So it really depends on where you're located. And we did a full cache analysis. You just go to the No Kings website, nokings.com/partners, and take a look at what a staggering number of official organizers, partners that this movement has. It's crazy. I mean, there's like dozens and dozens, over 100 really. And so you've got some things like the ACLU, you've got other groups like 5051, 350.org, things that you may or may not have heard of. These organizers and partners, they perform all kinds of functions for this event, whether it's creating the signs, creating the chant songbooks, providing materials and supplies to the protesters. ACLU, I will say, is pretty well known for showing up in yellow vests, documenting any sort of activity that happens, not to preserve law and order, but to make sure that anybody who does something wrong, that they can blame the police for it and get that person out of jail as quickly as possible. But yeah, so 300, I mean, it's 294 million. That's been given over the past couple of years. So it's a well-funded machine. It's not for this weekend per se, but they use that money for all kinds of stuff.
And so walk me through some of the bigger donors, because I don't think people really realize some of those people that are shoveling in massive amounts of money, and some of those organizations that they're funneling it through.
Sure. So, I mean, of course, you've got George Soros, his son Alex Soros, and the Open Society Institutes and the Open Society Network. That, I believe, is around 72 million to these organizers and partners directly from Soros. But then you've got other, mostly billionaires, like this one named Mark Benioff. He's the CEO of Salesforce. He's given over $20 million just to the Tides Foundation. His Salesforce nonprofit arm has given 23 million, I believe it is, to the Tides network. And then the Tides network basically acts as a pass-through. I mean, it gets Soros money, it gets Benioff money, it gets Gates money, Zuckerberg money, all these other left-wing billionaires pump their money into Tides. That's probably one of the more, egregious dark money networks. But then the Tides network is. But then also you have the Arabella funding network, and that's got 7 or 8 different funds: the New Venture Fund, the 1630 Fund, all these different funds you've not heard of. Hundreds of millions of dollars flow through there, not just to the protest industrial complex. They also have all kinds of election apparatus, get out the vote efforts, ballot harvesting efforts, things that a lot of people, if you looked at it, would say, that looks like something that would enable fraud, election fraud. And then they've got 6 or 7 other divisions. I mean, they got the climate alarmism and protest division. They've got basically off the books lobbying divisions to change policies to things that people in this audience would not be in favor of. They also have migrant resettlement, divisions where they help get illegal migrants, not just like up through the Darien Gap and through Latin America, but then eventually when they arrive here, they get them settled here. So I'll have to come back and tell you all about those different efforts of these left-wing dark money networks. Today, we're talking about No Kings, but that money, that $300 million, it is apportioned to whatever the issue of the day is. And today it's No Kings 2.0.
Yeah. So, and not to get down to that rabbit hole, we can definitely do that later, but it sounds like these organizations that a lot of money, this money is being funneled through they're really social engineering. I mean, their mission is to engineer a society that they deem is appropriate, using hundreds of millions of dollars in tons of different resources, which is just absolutely terrifying, obviously.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think our database, so we've got a huge database. It's a couple 100,000 rows of different grants that these big dark money networks like the Tides Network, the Soros Network, the Arabella Network, we've got this database, and all you have to do is kind of search through, like, what is this grant for, or what is the entity receiving this money? It's over $20 billion that we go through. It's closer to actually 50 billion, depending on which networks you include, like if you include the Bill Gates network. And so, when an event like No Kings comes up, we put in all the names of the partners and the official organizers of the event, and then we get to see who is funding this. And time and again, it is the exact same people. It's the Soros, the Arabella, the Tides, the Ford Foundation, which I believe Henry Ford would probably be turning in his grave if he saw how his legacy was being used to undermine America. And then you've got, so many others, dozens. I mean, we've got Warren Buffett's charities, so-called charities in here. Warren Buffett's kids are actually funding some really subversive type stuff, including these No Kings things, which, by the way, is partnered with the Communist Party of the United States and other communist youth movements. No Kings has welcomed the communists in with open arms, and this is not a good thing. It probably won't be violent in most cities where people in this audience are living, but just look for the blue cities like Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago. Atlanta might get hot, and then the New England cities too.
And last week you kind of alluded to the fact that there was some foreign influence as well. And on your list, we're also seeing some foreign financial influence and some financial support as well. How deep or, how prolific is that in your research?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's huge that like these dark money networks enable foreign influence into our political process, whether it's protesting or, like I mentioned earlier, the get out the vote and the ballot harvesting and all of the election activities. These groups don't discriminate against foreign billionaires. They're allowed to take money from foreign billionaires and put it into election-related activities, protest-related activities. And so one of the guys, this guy, Hans-Jörg Wyss from Switzerland, like Hans-Jörg Wyss, it looks like, from Switzerland, he's put in over $240 million just into the Arabella funding network alone. And so Hans-Jörg Wyss is a really weird guy. If you look into him, just Google him, and you'll find some really crazy articles about the things that he invests in. But he's not good. He's either Marxist or just wants to hurt the United States. We've also reported a lot on Neville Roy Singham. I believe we talked about him last week. This is the guy who lives in China, who is a total Marxist, and he's funding the American groups that go down to Cuba. They receive this revolutionary Marxist training, and then they come back and participate in things like No Kings. We found that, I think we talked about the Armed Queers of Salt Lake City last time, or if we didn't, that was the group that the FBI had added to their investigation to the Charlie Kirk assassination. At this time, there's no evidence linking them, but they are a very suspicious group that did travel down to Cuba to receive some Marxist revolutionary training. There's a lot of other groups that are. By the way, they had a big presence with No Kings in Salt Lake City. So what you find at these No Kings events is all kinds of people. Some of them legitimate, many of them legitimate even, and then a lot of them are also people who wish to do harm to this country.
So when we talk about this amount of money, it's hard for me to fathom that amount of money coming in and funding some of this stuff. What is this money going towards? Is it, I get money makes the world go round and it makes organizations run, but what are they paying for when it comes? I get it. This is a, organized, unorganized protest. It's not centrally organized, but still has a lot of organization to it. But what is this money funding when it comes to these protests?
Yeah, well, it funds, all of the salaries for the people involved, and that's a lot of salaries. So, there's a big component of grifting going on here. It's not like hundreds of millions of dollars are going towards riot shields and Molotov cocktails. Salaries of the organizers are probably the largest chunk of this NGO funding scheme. And when you see hundreds of organizations, multiply that by hundreds of employees or 100 employees at a lot of these, things, maybe thousands, like in the cases of the bigger ones like ACLU, they have to get paid. And so that's a huge chunk. But then it also pays for all of the materials. They pass out a lot of swag, a lot of signs, and water bottles and all of the things that I guess you need for a big day of defiance. And then on top of that, the lawyers' fees, the ACLU, those are some expensive lawyer fees to get people out of jail. That's what ostensibly the ACLU does, is helps get some of these protesters out of jail. And then also it's the lawsuits that they file trying to defy the Trump administration. So the ACLU is one of the number one legal groups suing the Trump administration for whether he's trying to deport violent criminals or anything else in his agenda. Money goes towards that as well.
It's absolutely incredible that we're seeing. I think that really helps drive it home that this is not just, they're not sending thoughts and prayers. This is material support from not only paying salaries, but like you said, handing out tools and implements to actually go for, a day of defiance. And I love that term. I'm using that, but, actual material support. So, I think that's what really should hit home to a lot of Americans, is especially with the foreign influence. You have people providing material support to influence things that are going on in the U.S. And that should that should absolutely motivate you. And I'm not here to fearmonger or spread paranoia, but if nothing else, it should help motivate you to go and want to learn more. And, once again, I always like to leave them with some homework. And we talked about it last time, but you had some great resources. And I just want you to kind of revisit some of those resources where, the average American citizen that's out there listening and knows in Burner Nation can actually go and participate in a lot of this research and learn more and make sure that they're educated on the threats that present themselves on a daily basis.
Well, I am finding it. So I, got to give a shout out to Elon Musk for freeing Twitter X. There is so much information flying out there, firsthand accounts, and on the other social platforms as well. But there is so much information flowing so freely. I find it, hard to keep up. But I find these tips all the time of I just saw one recently of up in Portland. They had these Antifa people who were renting U-Hauls and renting storage units. I don't know if that's legitimate. I haven't confirmed it myself, but this is the kind of stuff that law enforcement needs to see. So go ahead and tag FBI, tag Homeland Security, tag me at Seamus Bruner, and I'll get to the bottom of it if I can, because there are so many people providing information out there and they don't know where to get it. They don't know how to get it to the right people. But share it widely. We'll vet it, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of false tips and not good information. But there's also some really good stuff. We found some good things that I know that the DOJ is acting on, and the FBI and Homeland Security are acting on, death threats and all the rest that are coming from these violent rioters and violent individuals who are going to exploit this No King's Day of Defiance.
That's we always talk about on this show, and anybody that's seen any of my material knows that I always talk about being a cop for now over 2 decades. The biggest thing I understood was the law enforcement can't do it alone, and that not only the security and safety of yourself, your family, but your community, your state, and the nation is incumbent on all that live here, on everybody to put in an effort. And sometimes I think people don't realize that, one, that they need to have an active role, or two, how to have an active role. And like you said there, that's all. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes we just need that network. We need to hear from those people that are on the ground, that see it every day, and get it to the right people who can then take true, legal action or investigative action. But it literally takes a village, and in this sense, a country. Seamus, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been such a wealth of information for Burner Nation out there. And thank you for all the work that you're doing, not only for your appearance here and your time here, but for absolutely doing all of the research, getting it out to the American public so that it's unfiltered, unfettered. We're not having to go through committees to find this stuff out. You are just dropping it on them so that they can be educated and understand and have a better situational awareness about the threats that are out there every day and how to protect themselves. So thank you so much for being on this show today, Seamus. Burner Nation, go out and it's at Seamus Bruner on all the platforms, especially X. I think he's got some Instagram as well going on. And then go check out his books, Control Oligarchs, Compromised, and Fallout. I'm halfway through Control Oligarchs on audiobook. It's been great. It gets me excited on my drive, maybe a little angry here and there too, but that's okay. Yeah, everybody should be passionate about it. Seamus, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Josh. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Can't wait to have you back on the show. And Burner Nation, we'll see you on the next episode of Burner Bros.